Sit with me for a second. If you are watching this video, that means you woke up today and you decided to keep going. Now, that might seem like a small feat, but what you did was decide to keep representing, to keep being your true authentic self. And that, in the end, is how we win. You see, trans existence is resistance. And honey, you fucking exist. And in the end, that's all you and me have to do. Keep existing. Because every day you do, another person that's never met a trans person before will see that you are just that, a person. Thank you for existing with me today.
Good news, everyone! Tonight, case law to know, Cass continues to go, a new Michigan law, and more. Good news starts right now. First, a correction. During the panel portion of the live show last week, I misspoke about complete androgen insensitivity syndrome. To set the record straight, people with CAIS typically have internal testicles which still produce testosterone, though their body does not respond to the hormone as an androgen. This may seem like a really minor mistake in the context of the discussion, which was about the recent botched anti-trans executive order, but I believe it is important to acknowledge errors, in no small part because accepting when you're wrong is the first step to stop being wrong. That's what sets the science side apart from the promoters of pseudoscience and conspiracy theories that currently dominate the US government. When we get something wrong, that's an opportunity to learn. That's a wonderful thing. And fessing up when it happens, despite the opinions of the political powers, is not, in fact, a weakness to be embarrassed of. It is a demonstration of honesty that makes what you say reliable. It shows you care about what's true, which, call me a traditionalist, I still think is a virtue. Now, first thing first, here's an overview of key legal precedents protecting transgender individuals in the United States. First, Bostock versus Clayton County, decided in 2020. The Supreme Court ruled that Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, which prohibits employment discrimination based on sex, also protects GSM individuals, including trans people. This case set a precedent for interpreting federal anti-discrimination laws to include gender identity, which protects trans people from discrimination in the workplace. Second, Grimm versus Gloucester County School Board, 2021. The Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals ruled that schools must allow transgender students to use bathrooms consistent with their gender identity under Title IX of the Equal Protection Clause. It affirmed the rights of transgender students in educational settings and has been cited in similar cases across the country, most notably due to the fact that the Supreme Court refused to hear this case, effectively making the Fourth Circuit Court ruling federal law. Third, Whitaker versus Kenosha Unified School District, 2017. The Seventh Circuit Court ruled that denying a trans student access to bathrooms consistent with their gender identity violates Title IX and the Equal Protection Clause. It reinforces the protections for transgender students in public schools. Fourth, Doe versus Boyertown Area School District, 2018. The Third Circuit Court upheld a school district policy allowing trans students to use facilities matching their gender identity and rejected claims that the policy violated the privacy rights of cisgender students. It validated inclusive policies for transgender students and rejected efforts to block them. And finally, Obergefell versus Hodges, 2015. Although primarily about marriage equality, this decision strengthened constitutional protections for all GSM individuals under the equal protections and due process clauses of the Constitution. It provides a foundation for challenging laws that disproportionately harm transgender people.
Hi everyone. I don't know about you, but I'm feeling pretty scared of this new administration as a trans person. A lot of the stuff that I heard from the inauguration yesterday makes me want to curl up into a little ball and hide and just cry, but I also know that's exactly what they want. So as my own little personal form of resistance, I'm going to do a series featuring a moment of queer or trans joy that I've experienced in my life, with today being day one. So today, my moment of joy is I'm really excited about my new haircut. I went to visit a friend yesterday, and they gave me a really fun undercut, which I've been wanting for a few weeks, and I'm really excited about that. So feel free to share any moments of joy that you guys are experiencing currently. It's really important to just be there and to exist and be unapologetically yourself.
Next, Cass continues to crumble from the trans agenda. Experts at the UK Women and Equality Select Committee criticized the Cass review and the UK's puberty blocker ban, calling them ideologically driven and lacking medical justification. Professor Simona Giordano, a prominent expert, slammed the Cass review for asking irrelevant questions, excluding valid studies, and setting unrealistic trial standards. She highlighted that randomized control trials are unsuitable for puberty blockers in this context, citing ethical violations under the Helsinki Declaration if treatment is restricted to clinical trials alone. Giordano stated the decision to use puberty blockers is a matter of patient autonomy and should not be dictated by politics. In the U.S., law professors Daniel Aaron and Craig Conniff have taken Cass to task, alleging the review, quote, transgresses medical law, policy, and practice. Writing in the New England Journal of Medicine, they highlighted issues such as a lack of peer verification, exclusion of non-English studies, and deviations from regulatory and scientific standards. The review, which has lent momentum to puberty blocker bans in the UK and US states, has also faced backlash from the British Medical Association, Yale academics, and GSM advocates. Despite all of science finding it faulty, UK and US governments maintain the position that the review's findings are robust and continue implementing its recommendations. Last Wednesday, Michigan's Governor Gretchen Whitmer signed an expanded hate crime bill into law, due to come into effect April 2nd, that adds protections for gender identity and sexual orientation to the statute, as well as increasing penalties for hate crime offenses. The current hate crime law forbids threats and physical assaults, as well as property damage, because of the victim's race, color, religion, gender, or national origin. The new law adds additional categories, including sex, sexual orientation, gender identity or expression, physical or mental disability, age, and ethnicity. It will also protect against discrimination or hate crimes based on the association or affiliation with an individual or group of individuals in whole or in part based on a characteristic described. Under the expanded law, stalking will be added to the list of hate crime actions and is expected to increase the punishment and escalate prison time and fines based on prior hate crime convictions. Michigan's Attorney General Dana Nessel praised the changes, saying that it was needed, particularly after the rise in hate crimes and the, quote, normalization of racist, anti-Semitic, and bigoted language, symbolism, and action. Our state's previous hate crime laws were inadequate to deter and properly prosecute those that target Michigan residents with fear and hatred simply for who they are, AG Nessel said. Quote, hate crimes are intended to send a message, an inherently violent message of intolerance to vulnerable communities. We know that stronger laws such as these can help us better protect Michigan residents from the scourge of hatred.
Wise men say Only fools rush in, but I can't help falling in love with you.
A federal inmate is suing the Trump administration over an executive order affecting transgender prisoners. The lawsuit alleges the president's directive, which mandates the government recognize only two unchangeable sexes and requires transgender women, who are often but not always born male, to be housed in men's prisons. As reported previously, the executive order also ends transition-related medical treatments for inmates. The suit was filed in a Massachusetts federal court by a transgender woman using the pseudonym Maria Mo. Mo, who began transitioning in middle school and has been housed in a women's prison since her incarceration, is seeking to block the new regulations for all transgender prisoners. Mo was recently moved to a special housing unit, and according to the lawsuit, is set to be transferred to a men's prison. Mo's legal team argues that this transfer and the potential denial of medical treatment violate constitutional rights, including equal protection under the Fifth Amendment and protection against cruel and unusual punishment under the Eighth Amendment. The executive order fulfills a promise President Donald Trump made during his campaign to end taxpayer-funded medical care only and specifically for transgender inmates. Under previous guidelines, transgender inmates were individually assessed for housing placement, a process that considered the risk of them being assaulted by other inmates or guards. However, the new order directs the Justice Department to amend these rules based on reproductive anatomy these people may not even have. It should be noted that depriving persons in federal custody of medically necessary care would also violate a federal law known as the Rehabilitation Act of 1973. It should also be noted that, as reported on this channel, Trump's executive order in question is illegal, expressly drawing on a section of the Constitution that not only does not grant the president power to do any of the things laid out in the order, but highlights specifically the federal ethical standards, of which every single one has been violated by the president within his first few days in office. It's one thing to note that the order is unlawful, but it is equally important to note that any illegal law or policy can still go into force until and unless someone challenges it in court. This suit marks the first step in pushing back, or hopefully reversing, some of the damage the felon-in-chief is inflicting on our legal systems. If you enjoy content like this, make sure to subscribe. Transpositions Weekly is the first and only weekly trans news show in the universe, and we need your support to keep this show going. Contribute at patreon.com/thetranspositions. Spread the word all over social media to let people know we're here, and tell us what stories matter to you by joining the community on Discord. Discord, of course, is where the memes live, and our meme of the week was posted by yours truly. And if you want to stand up to authoritarian bullies in defense of every person's rights to life and freedom, join us. Also, if you have good news concerning trans people you'd like to see reported on, you can tell us about that in the Discord as well. For the Transpositions, I've been Ember Belrad. stay with us.